When you think of domestic travel within Japan, trains are likely what you think of first. The Shinkansen is awesome and should be your go-to. But domestic aviation within Japan, especially between cities and islands less well connected, is booming as well. I'm here in beautiful Matsuyama, home of Dogo Onsen and orange juice from a faucet, about to fly home via Tokyo. I'm booked in J class, a rather odd offering from JAL for domestic flights. What's it like flying domestically within Japan? Let's find out on this flight from Matsuyama to Tokyo Haneda. Although geographically Japan is quite small, both ANA and JAL fly a mix of narrow and wide bodies domestically. While most airlines offer economy and first or business class domestically, JAL offers three. For more premium routes, they offer a domestic first class. But on less popular or important routes, they offer a sort of middle tier called J class. I'll leave it up to you to see if you feel like it's worth paying for, but I had booked it as part of a first class award back to the US using American Airlines miles. Welcome to Matsuyama. Located on the island of Shikoku, it's the home of Dogo Onsen, a magnificent castle, and orange juice from a faucet. Though, who am I kidding? This was my last night in Japan, so I spent it shopping at the greatest store on earth. My flight departed at 7:30 a.m., so thinking like an American, I arrived at the airport at 5:30 a.m., 2 hours before. The airport was closed. It didn't open until 6. The JAL counter check-in desks didn't open until 6:30. You might think that check-in only opening an hour before departure is risky, but you underestimate Japanese efficiency. In the meantime, I enjoyed an orange juice fountain, and the Mikan mascot was everywhere. After checking in, I headed to security. J-Class normally doesn't get you domestic lounge access on JAL, but because I had a connecting flight in first class internationally, I did have access. The JAL Sakura Lounge in Matsuyama is really small and off to one corner. There wasn't much going on at this hour, and I just had a coffee, but it's a quiet place to relax or work before your flight, and the only other patrons were clearly traveling for business. Even here, there's oranges. Pre-boarding started right at the start of boarding time, only 15 minutes before scheduled departure. But the Japanese are incredibly efficient at boarding planes. I also noticed a sign warning against sneak photography, so I'm gonna be a little more conservative on what I film on this flight. J-class seats on the 737 are in a fairly unique 2-3 configuration. There's 38 inches of pitch, more than American or United's A321neo, but only 18.5 inches of width, far less than you get in the US. I mean, it's fine for me, but how do I put this? Americans tend to be a bit wider than the Japanese. Economy is 17.3 inches for reference. There's also a leg rest, as well as USB-A and C power. Despite only 15 minutes allocated for boarding, we were done only 3 minutes after scheduled departure, and we pushed back. The crew also handed out play kits for kids, which is a nice gesture on such a short flight. Per tradition, the ground crew bowed and sent us on our way. Flying time to Haneda was an hour 14 at 39,000 feet. Due to storms and turbulence, the fasten seatbelt sign was on for the entire flight. The crew was told to be seated during most of the flight, and it got so rough that the captain told them to take their seats early and stop performing final safety checks, which is really saying something. J-Class doesn't get a meal or anything special like domestic first class. In the limited time they could, the crew went through the cabin with cold green tea and then with some apple juice. There's normally a slightly wider set of options available, but it's the same between economy and J-Class. There's free Wi-Fi for all passengers, which is excellent. The moving map was displayed on the overhead monitors. I had selected a seat on the left to capture an epic shot of Mount Fuji, except with today's storms you definitely couldn't see a damn thing. And after a pretty bumpy descent, we flew up Tokyo Bay and touched down in Haneda. We taxied to the domestic terminal, and I hoofed it over to Terminal 3 for my connecting flight. One neat thing was that as I deplaned, there was a board displaying connections that was clearly customized to the passengers on board, so that was pretty cool. So J-Class on JAL. It's a rather quirky little product now, isn't it? Would I pay for it? No. But I don't think it's worth paying for domestic first in the US or business class intra-Europe either. The seat, while better, is only just, and with no lounge access or extra service, I don't see the value. But it was a perfectly pleasant flight, minus the turbulence, and I'd be happy to take it again. But this flight was really just a warm-up, as next up is one of, if not the most enjoyable flight of my life, in first class on JAL.